Hi, my name is Sean Sire, and welcome to the fourth part in this 8-part series of getting emotionally ready for the holidays. We're going to focus today on boundaries. We're going to talk about what they are, when and how they get crossed, and what to do about it. Holidays are a big time for this because we have a lot more interactions with people than we might usually have during the rest of the year. We're going to be working with family, which is the most difficult people to keep and set boundaries with. So, let's get started. Boundaries. Let's talk for a second about what they are. A boundary is a limit of a subject or a sphere of activity. So in this case, we're going to think about it as a circle around yourself. We're going to focus here, instead of country and state boundaries, we're going to talk about personal boundaries. This is not an exhaustive list of things inside your personal boundary, but things like your time, what you want, what you need, what you feel like you have to do, how you feel, what you believe in, how comfortable and or safe you feel, your money or possessions. These are all things that can be considered your personal boundaries. So if we think of yourself surrounded in that circle, which is your boundary, inside we have memories that you've got. So this is your history, your own personal thoughts, how you feel, your emotions about things as they come and go, your morals or what you believe in, things that you need personally, things that you want personally, what you believe in. This could be spiritual or otherwise. Your comfort and or safety, and your physical body. These are all your things, specific and subjective to you, and we would consider them inside your boundary. So if we think of people as being walking boundaries, everyone has these things that are personal to them inside their boundary. Now, in order for us to exist, we have to have our boundary and keep them intact. In order for us to interact with one another in some form or fashion, our boundaries actually have to come together in some way. We either have to exchange thoughts, feelings, beliefs, words with each other in so that we can have a relationship. Now, sometimes people think about boundaries as something that should never ever be crossed. That our boundaries are ours and you have to do everything you can to defend them. Well, we're not countries, we're not states, we're people. And in order to interact with one another, we have to allow a person in to a certain degree, and we have to go into a person's boundary to a certain degree in order to connect. So how do we know when to stop or when to stop someone from crossing further? We're going to base this decision on how you feel. Inside yourself, you have your own personal warning system for your boundaries. Your emotions are very intelligent, and they let you know when your boundaries have been crossed. So one surefire way to know that your boundary has been crossed is if you feel anger. Anger can be mixed with fear, sadness, or a sense of loss. You may feel one of these stronger than another. And if you think about your family of origin, where you grew up, if anger was allowed, then perhaps anger is the first thing that you'll feel, and that's how you'll know that your boundary's been crossed. If you grew up in a family where anger was not allowed, or only a particular person was allowed to feel the anger, then fear, sadness, or a sense of loss could be sort of your anger in a costume, so to speak. So if you feel any of these things, it's a pretty good indication that somewhere along the line your boundary's been crossed. Sorry about these birds, I live in a tropical rainforest. We allow our boundary to be crossed, and we do so when we say yes, when we mean no. So let me tell you first about what I don't mean, and then I'll tell you about what I do mean. I'm not talking about blaming victims here. I'm not talking about blaming a victim for something that they did or said or didn't do or didn't say, so that then we can somehow conclude that it was their fault for being a victim. What I'm talking about is your personal boundaries and how you may allow other people to cross them by saying yes when you really want to say no. That can look like staying longer when you actually want to leave, saying that you'll do something when you really don't want to or can't, agreeing to have a conversation with someone who's not emotionally safe, agreeing to be in the physical presence of someone who you know is not physically safe. So these are ways in which you can actually set yourself up for a boundary violation. Anything outside of agreements you can make is not included here. If you have specific questions about this one, let me know. I know this can be a kind of a triggering statement, but I'm going to hold to it that many of the boundary violations that we experience, particularly during the holidays, happen because we say yes when we actually want to say no. As I mentioned before, one of the hardest arenas for us to hold, respect, and make boundaries are with our family. Oftentimes we have unwritten, unspoken rules about who's supposed to do what. And that's why it makes family the hardest arena to keep these boundaries. That's why family is the hardest place for us to keep these boundaries, because we have a history, sometimes even decades, of these rules being in place. Holidays are a time to practice using these boundaries and holding them up, seeing how you can play around with them, because most likely you're either being asked to come together or not asked to come together. So when you feel like you have a boundary situation with a family member, ask yourself, when did I say yes when I meant no? It's okay to change your mind and make a new agreement. This can be something you verbalize with the person. This can be something that you just know inside yourself that you're going to do differently. Making these types of changes can trigger in you and other people some upset because you are changing, and anytime we change, typically the people around us have to change, and you've probably heard people don't really like changing. So when you set a new boundary, you may experience some pushback either internally or outside yourself. And frankly, that's okay, and that means that you're doing it right. This is an opportunity for those rules to be sort of triggering inside of you that says, oh no, you have to pick up mom from the airport. No, you have to make this casserole. No, you have to travel. No, you have to host people. It's just what we do. So that kind of dialogue that has an obligation ring to it and is born out of these rules of your family are places where you might look and see, are these really my boundaries, and can I change them to make myself more comfortable? Beating yourself up about a boundary violation or not holding a boundary or wishing you would have done it differently is a boundary violation. So just don't do it. So I said before that our emotions are a way for us to navigate these boundaries, and we can use the intelligence of our emotions to sort of guide us towards what we should do or not do for ourselves. It becomes tricky when we feel things like obligation, guilt, fear, blame, or a need to be fair. These emotions tend to make us want to do something that we really don't want to do, or push beyond ourselves in a way that is ultimately harmful for us or creates resentments in us towards other people. So when you feel those emotions, be suspicious of which way you're pushed to go. These emotions are not reasons for us to do something that we don't want to do. In fact, they're even more of a reason for us to not do those things, because they're not coming from a place of our highest good and other people's highest goods. Instead, they're coming from this place of darkness. So when you're wanting to make a decision, try to bring yourself to a place of calm if you can. Take a few deep breaths. Do some of the parts work that we looked at in the last couple of videos, and do things when you really feel like you want to, when you feel really pulled to do them from that calm place. And if you're just not sure what to do ultimately, think about what upholds your highest integrity. And again, if you feel that fear, that sense of loss, that anger, just thinking about doing something, then take that as information that doing so may actually be a violation of your own boundary, and see if there's any changes that can be made. Alright, great work today. This is a lot of information. You can Google boundaries, boundary violations, emotional boundaries, and get even more information about the subject if it's something that you feel is really important to you. And also remember that by you keeping your boundaries with yourself, you're actually helping everyone around you keep their boundaries. So it may feel like you're hurting someone by not doing something that they've asked you to do, or it may feel like you really should just sit there and let someone talk to you even when you don't feel up for it. But by doing so, you violate your own boundary and then create a situation where you'll resent the other person, which then violates their boundary. So the best thing to do is to hold on to yourself and your own boundaries, stand your ground where you need to, leave when you need to leave, go when you need to go, do and don't do the things that take care of you the most. Not only are you helping protect other people from your own resentment, also you're being a model for other people to uphold their boundary. Alright, best of luck with this. Sometimes some of these boundaries can take a lot to change, so if you need additional help, contact your counselor or therapist, give me a call or an email. You can also leave comments here. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll have our next episode next Thursday. Thanks.